History of Australia, Volume 1 of 5, From the Earliest Times to the Age of Macquarie, first published 1962 by Melbourne University Press, by Australian historian Charles Manning Hope Clark, 1915 to 1991. This 5-volume series is deemed flawed without the need to read beyond the first 2 pages of the first volume, because if the base and scene setting is built on extreme ignorance, then nothing beyond can be much more than the same. However, this and many other such books must remain as evidence of Australia's foundational racism towards Aboriginal people, as Australia has been working hard to remove these books from shelves and circulation. Australia wants systematic racism to remain, but not the evidence of its existence via the proof of where it came from. Let's start at the start. Page 4 opens in reference to the previous page mention of the Negrito people, the Moreans, and the Carpentarians, with the quote, "Of the way of life of these 3 peoples before the coming of European civilization, little need, or indeed can be said," which is pure colonial erasure that dismisses the richest continuous culture on earth as unworthy of serious study. While Aboriginal genius sustained populations through flawless ecological balance for 60,000 years. Clark then lists the wildly differing estimates, some putting the figure as high as 1,400,000 while others put it at approximately 300,000. And for Tasmanians, some missionaries suggesting 200,000 and 7,000, while other observers put the figure as low as between 4,000 and 7,000. Proving the sheer scale and vitality of Aboriginal societies that European writers could not even accurately count. He declares, "Neither the Negritos nor the Carpentarians nor the Moreans made the advance from barbarism to civilization, an insulting lie that Aboriginal peoples had no need for European-style civilization, because they had already perfected a sustainable harmonious existence without destroying the land." The biblical explanation that this was special punishment for their part in the fall, with the snake condemned to go on his belly, the man to produce bread in the sweat of his brow, the woman to produce children in pain, and the Aboriginal to suffer the drudgery of the uncivilized is nothing but racist garbage designed to justify later genocide, at the expense of Christianity. Clark's secular alternative still fails to honor the intelligent adaptation to their environment, and the deliberate choice to reject unsuitable grain or animals for domestication as the highest wisdom, not failure. Page 5 continues with the quote that Aboriginal culture was to wither when in contact with other races, due to a tenacious if not unique inability to detect meaning in any way of life other than his own, and this very inability to live outside the framework of his own culture, at the price of the total destruction of the Tasmanian Aborigine and the gradual destruction of Aboriginal culture on the mainland. Turning the invaders' own words into proof of Aboriginal strength. Their unbreakable sovereignty made them impossible to keep enslaved or forced assimilation, so the only way Europeans could win was through outright extermination. Clark then asks why no invasion occurred between the end of the Ice Age in the 25th millennium and the coming of the European, despite theoretical 6-month island-hopping routes from Indonesia and the imaginary Timor to Makassar, line where civilization ended and barbarism began. With 2 Malay migrations around 3000 BC and 200 BC that stopped short, and 1500 years of Asian explorers and settlers never advancing further. This was Aboriginal power holding their continent sovereign for millennia against every outsider due to their unique adaptation to the land and a mutual respect for visitors, until the brutal European arrival finally fracturing it through violence, not any Aboriginal weakness. This 5-volume series is deemed flawed without the need to read beyond the first 2 pages of the first volume. Australia wants systematic racism to remain, but not the evidence of its existence via the proof of where it came from. They went from writing the history of Australia and minimalising Aboriginal people's significance, to now and currently rewriting the history of Australia while minimalising white people atrocities.